What I want people to know is that my sister Karla and I are not bullies. I just hit my endpoint at that moment and needed for it all to stop.
Hello and welcome to the Nutshell True Story Hour, a podcast for people who love stories. My name is Aaron Carnes, and I'm an author and one of the creators of In a Nutshell Storytelling, a monthly storytelling show in Sacramento, California. My co-creators are the world-class comedian Keith Lowell Jensen and Amy B., a storyteller and the person who pretty much runs this whole shindig. Every episode, we share with you one of our favorite stories told live at our show, followed by a conversation with the storyteller about how that story came to be. This week, storyteller Kimberlli Joy tells a story about how she and her sister were harassed and racially profiled while trying to have a pleasant meal at a nice restaurant. But Kim has very fond memories of this night because she spoke up and she let this person have it. The theme the night she told this story was bullies. Our audience loved sharing with her the delight that comes with telling a bully to go suck rocks and then getting free drinks in the process. Later, when Kim watched the story with us, she was able to appreciate the person she was 2 decades ago who stood up to this bully and turned the night into a party. Let's give it a listen.
Oh, before I get started on this story, there is a trigger warning. I'm going to tell a story about a Kevin. A Kevin is the equivalent to a Karen. Yeah, and you know what a Karen is, right? Karen is a white woman who has an emotional moment in public and gets filmed and everybody judges her. And if your name is Kevin or Karen, don't be mad at me. The internet did it, not me. But if it's any consolation, there is really no name for the angry black woman or black man. There's a trope, angry black woman and black man. Yeah. And I spent my life having to defend myself every time I've had an emotive moment, an expressive moment, a passionate moment of being accused of being angry or aggressive as a black woman. I'm just like, no, I'm emotional. I'm not angry. I'm feeling my emotions, but it's not anger. It's passion. It's expression. Constantly being accused, aggression, anger, all my life. And I couldn't stand that, so I did whatever I could to kind of temper it, right? And then, because for me, that's not true. I'm not angry. But then I read that James Baldwin said, James Baldwin said, to be black and conscious in America is to walk around in a constant state of rage. And when I read that, I was so fucking pissed. I spent my whole life trying to show people that I'm cool, I'm not angry. But then as I got older, I realized it is like right below the surface, right? And it's tempered by prayer, my respect for humanity, my love for humanity, and also the truth that I don't have the freedom and the privilege of going off in the middle of the street like some of these Karens do without walking away in handcuffs. Until this day. It was 2000, Boston, Massachusetts. My sister and I, Karla, let me just tell you a little bit about Karla. She's very pink. She's like the wicked Alphaba and Galinda. She's like the Galinda to my Alphaba. She's very, very prim and proper. She is a rule follower. We go out every Friday night to this place called Wally's. Wally's Jazz Cafe. It's on Mass Ave. It is a historical landmark. Dizzy Gillespie played there. Billie Holiday sang there. They said that Malcolm X hung out there. And now it's our little watering hole in the wall. And we would hang out there and drink cognac and listen to our jazz musician boyfriends play Miles Davis, Thelonious Monk, Billy Childs. Yeah. And at the break, during their set break, the bartender would go out and drop some money in the jukebox, and Marvin Gaye would come on. Let's get it on. Or Nina Simone, birds flying high, you know how I feel. And right at that part where she would say, and I'm feeling good, somebody would always go, oh, this is my song! My sister hated when I did that. But that was our Friday night ritual. But this night, we decided before we go to Wally's, we were going to go to a Michelin-recognized restaurant that my sister's friend invited us to on Newbury Street. If you know anything about Massachusetts, you know anything about Boston, Newbury Street is about as white as a Friends episode. And we weren't wealthy girls. We were hardworking 30-something-year-old women, and we held our heads high as we navigated our full hips through the bistro, looking at the gray and grimacing faces and bewildered faces as we took our seat at the table. And as we sat down, we heard, "There goes the neighborhood." We looked at each other, both took a deep breath, exhaled, and just relaxed as we saw Saya come over. Saya, seeing all the people just staring at us, said, "Chef Jordan is so happy that you're here. We have a very special menu for you. Here is your amuse-bouche and your glass of champagne. Sit back, relax, don't worry about anything. We'll just bring food out. You are Chef Jordan's guest tonight." Well, we knew that what Saya was doing was qualifying our presence. She saw people staring at us. She wanted them to know they're special. They belong here. So we thought we'd play along. So I pretended to be a New York Times bestselling author. So I heard from Oprah's people, and they're actually thinking of optioning my book for her book club. I'm getting a green light. "Oh, really? Have you heard about Lionsgate? Have you heard from Lionsgate?" "Yeah, we have 2 directors looking to write a screenplay for my book." "Oh, that is so great." And people were ear hustling and listening in, and I even saw a woman sitting diagonally from me, mouth to her people at the table like, "Who is she?" We sipped and we nibbled throughout the night. We giggled and laughed, and we kept up this appearance. We talked about vacationing and the Hamptons, and we you know, I've been to the Hamptons. I couldn't even show you the Hamptons on the map. But we giggled and laughed our way through the night. And right before the check came, we decided, we wanted to get up. It's time to go to Wally's. We're going to get up and put on our lipstick, readjust our cleavage. And it hadn't been long that we were in the bathroom. At least it didn't feel long. When suddenly we heard this violent rap at the door. Boom, 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 boom. In a minute. Not 30 seconds later, kicking at the door. And we were like, okay, we got to get ourselves together and get out of here, get out of this bathroom. And when I opened the door, I saw this man he had like an orangey tan and like a goldish comb over. No, it wasn't Trump. But he was giving Trump. Angry. Violently angry. So I noticed his anger, but my sister was, very, Galinda, sorry, 2 girls. And he said, "Yeah, 2 big, fat, black bitches. You need to go back where you came from." And he pushed me. She was out first. He kind of pushed me out of the way and slammed the door. I could feel the lock click as I held the doorknob in my attempt to pull it open. And I stood there holding the doorknob, and the second thing I felt was just heat from my feet rising up to my head. And then I closed my eyes. And I told myself, surrender. And I started to pray. Oh, dear Lord, please don't let me kill this motherfucker tonight. I had visions of violence dancing through my brain. It was beautiful. But then I thought, that's not going to end well. And then the question, well, what do you want? I want to know why he thinks it's okay to speak to us this way. And then suddenly, every memory of racial bullying flooded back into my head. I was born by the river. I was born in a time when turn the other cheek was the mantra of my community. In a little tent. And in 1970, when I was bussed out to school, white adults were throwing rocks and racial epithets at children. And then in 1980, the police ransacked our neighborhoods looking for Carol Demaney Stewart's murderer, arresting every young black man they could put their hands on, to find out later that it was her husband. It's been a long time coming, and I know they never apologized. See, this was 2000 in Boston, Massachusetts. There was no implicit bias. It was just plain old-fashioned racial tyranny with a side of implicit, explicit, and the worst, complicit bias. And the complicit bias was coming from me. It was me and my fear of just being angry, showing anger. I was tired. I was so tired. The door flung open. He was moving so fast that I couldn't catch up with him. But Galinda did a little body check, got him off balance, just enough so he could slow down. And I stretched out my right leg to step on the back of his shoe. But now we're in the middle of the bistro. I brought my left leg to meet my right, and I told him to turn around. And he did. And I said, why did you think it was okay to say that to us? The restaurant quieted. I repeated, why did you think it was okay to say that to us? And that woman sitting diagonally from me said, oh, what did he say? Does he have any idea who she is? He stuttered, he stammered, he even wept a little bit and invited us up to the bar for a drink. And Karla and I are very forgiving if you're going to buy us a drink. Okay, what did he say? So we sat there at the bar. I sat there at the bar with him, and I was sipping a Grey Goose dirty martini with 3 olives and listening to him go on and on about why he was so upset and what was going on with him, and I really wasn't listening because the only thing that I could think was, oh my God, this could have gone so wrong. First of all, if it was this day and age, we would be TikToked. He would be the crying Kevin, and I would be the bistro bitch. But that time, I would have just gone out in handcuffs. Karla and I think really fondly of this whole experience. for many reasons. One is, we really think that the people in the restaurant probably assumed that he called us the N-word. And had he done that, I probably wouldn't have even been upset because I would have just recognized right away. I know why he said that, because he's crazy, right? The word bitch didn't bother me because my mother, knowing who we were in the town that we were in, that people would probably try to use that word, so she instead of weaponizing words, she made it an acronym, meaning being in total control of herself. Yeah. Thank you, Gano. And he was lucky I was a bitch that night. We were all lucky. And, I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you call a black person black, it's not an insult. Let me put it this way. When the pot called the kettle black, she said, "Thank you, darling." And I whistled, too. And even though I was, 30 years old, I was a fitness instructor, so I was snatched. She called me fat. And those are fighting words, no matter how much you weigh, right? Right? But it wasn't the name calling. It was the emboldened racism, just this idea that you can just come to and step to us and just be that blatant and disrespectful. And it's that experience that I've had in grade school and in high school and in the playground and in college and in the library and in the DMV and in walking down the street and driving and in a restaurant every day, all the time. I was done. Baldwin, black, conscious rage. The night ended triumphantly. We didn't have to pay. Somebody took care of our bill. And we never made it to Wally's. Too many apology cocktails. We had to get a cab home. And, a couple of weeks later, we learned that this man, Kevin, was a regular, and he had been banned from the restaurant. Yeah, apparently, yes. Apparently, we weren't the first people, women of color, he bullied in this way. We were just the first that stood up to him. Which reminds me of the quote by Maya Angelou. It says, "History, despite its retching pain, cannot be unlived, but when faced with courage, will not be lived again." Yeah. So how do we handle bullying in a nutshell? See what I did there? Rage plus courage equals freedom. Kimberlli Joy.
Great story, Kimberlli.
Thank you.
At the end of watching it with you,
Yeah.
you said, "I like her."
I do.
Tell me about that, what it felt like to watch yourself telling that story and what feelings it brought up in you.
Yeah. First of all, I really enjoy reliving that experience. It's one, as I say in the story, that my sister and I are really fond of. But the other thing is that one of the reasons I like and enjoy storytelling is I want to relay a message. And I felt that I did that successfully in that moment. And the whole "I like her" comment is just really something that I've been able to come to in this practice of storytelling. Like just allowing myself without too much vanity and too much ego to just be who I am and not pick on myself or how I look or how I stumble over words. Actually, I was watching myself and recognizing how much I just enjoyed being up there, and how much I enjoyed being delivering the story.
Nice. I like her too.
Oh, thank you.
The guy, the Kevin.
Kevin, yeah.
Kevin, okay. Do you think that he was sincerely trying to apologize?
No, he was afraid. What I know for sure is when we got in his face, or when I got in his face, he was embarrassed. It was how bistros are, how tiny. There's probably like 20 tables or even less, fewer tables. And we were right in the middle, and I was kind of dwarfing him, and I had on heels, and I was kind of over him. So there was that thing happening. And then again, everybody was like, what did he say? and the truth is that, they assumed it was something derogatory, I believe. And he wanted to, not be that person. Because everybody's fine with being that person in private, right? In the dark corner right before you go to the bathroom. But to be that in person, in front of everybody in public, nobody wants it. Paula Deen will tell you that it's not fun.
Right.
What was it like to sit and have drinks with him? Like, what did he say to justify himself?
Thanks for asking that question. First of all, he assumed that my sister and I were lesbian women. He was a gay man himself, but he assumed that my sister and I were lesbian women and that we were making out or something. I don't know. But he said that his sisters used to lock him out of the bathroom with their girlfriends, their lesbian girlfriends, and make out, I guess, and it just triggered him. So that was one of his reasons for being so angry. But the derogatory energy, the black, big fat black bitches or whatever he called us, he couldn't justify that. He was apologizing for his anger, and then he really wanted to ignore all the name calling.
Right. Because his sisters probably weren't black.
Right. No, his sisters weren't. I know. And it's funny, if I wasn't so stunned by what I had just done, those were the, like, that would have been a good question. Like, well, were they black lesbians?
Can I ask you the difference between, so our audience, a little bit older, and I think mostly a white audience. How different is it to tell this story to a more diverse audience, a black audience, a white audience?
Yeah.
Like, how much does it change the context of what you're doing on stage?
If I'm being honest, I haven't seen a predominantly black audience. Okay. So most of the time it's this very same demographic when I share my stories, any of my stories. However, I will tell you that when there are black people in the audience, there are certain things that I say that evoke a different reaction, evoke a reaction. Like a white audience might not get the same reaction.
Okay.
Or give the same reaction. Like maybe the part where I talk about how I've experienced it again and again and again, that evokes in the individual black people in the audience. I can see folks kind of rising up in full agreement, full alignment with that.
Right.
In a different way than the white audience.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think there's definitely, as a white audience member, hearing that stuff, I think you go through a number of emotions about that. Like, obviously, you feel bad for the person, but you also feel this sort of sense of guilt and shame about what people that look like you have done to other people that you have no control over. But
yeah, Kevin could have been my uncle.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a complicated feeling because, most of us have somebody in our family who's an asshole like that. And, and we usually don't particularly care for them, but they're out there in the world being assholes to people, and it's horrible.
Right. Yeah. The reaction from the audience after the event was just so powerful. There was one woman that was hugging on me after when Brian was on. She found me. She saw me kind of in the, and she came and she started hugging on me, and she was whispering something in my ear, but it felt, the whole energy felt very apologetic. Like she was in, so it evoked some kind of need for her to apologize to me. And then when I left and I was speaking to people, there was a lot of like, thank you for sharing that. You should share that all over the world. Like, people need to hear that, this story, this could teach a lot of people, so I know that it really to your point, it really created this like energy. Like, I don't want to align with that, that kind of person. And I want to just thank you for like sharing, your experience to help me kind of understand more about what Black folks are going through.
But it's also interesting and powerful. And I think it caused me and probably a lot of people listening to the story to kind of take a minute and think about it when you said that you look back fondly at the story.
Yeah, that still, it catches me to hear you say that.
Oh my God, because it felt like a fucking win.
You won.
Oh, can I
You won.
swear on
Yes,
this?
you can.
Yeah.
Fuck
Okay. Yeah, no, it did. It felt, you know why? Because it was that moment. It was that breakthrough moment where like, oh my God, you know how many times I've been like called the N-word or something just terrible, or treated, not even, people think that like the name calling is what identifies the racism. It's not even that. It's just like, it could be anything. We're in a restaurant and them like just giving you like a crappy piece of food, and you ask them to send it back, and the waiter has like an attitude about it, and there's no like consequence. Like your whole evening is ruined because this person perhaps doesn't want to wait on you, or they have no value. They see no value in you as a customer. And you just kind of, you take it. And the thing about it is you take it because the training is you do that or you're considered the troublemaker.
Right.
You're the angry Black woman. Yeah. So that moment, I said yes to being the angry Black woman. And I recognize that it is the thing that we must do if we want this to stop.
Yeah.
We have to show our emotion. And in that, I have a little empathy for the Karen, because I don't think that in the same regard, white women are really allowed to be angry without being labeled in this, like, and judged in this way.
So I have a thought about the Karen thing, and let me ask you about this, because you have a very different perspective on it than I do. When Black men and Black women are calling out Karens, I'm like, oh God, yeah, I get it. Oftentimes, and I see more white men these days calling out Karens than anyone else. And I'm like, no, you're just being a misogynist. That's
what I'm saying. That's my point. It's like, it's a way to weaponize a person's anger against them, their emotions against them. And to your point, yes, there are people, Barbecue Becky, and there are all these people that are, called out for being Karens because they think they have the authority over all people.
Right.
And that's just crazy. Right. And they need to be checked. And I'm glad that, they're getting checked. But yeah, now though, it's like anytime there's a woman, any woman that has like an emotive moment, and for whatever reason, and even if it's not justified, she's angry. Like, she's up to here. And I'm for the people that are listening, I have my hand on my forehead. She's had it up to here, and she's done, and she wants to see some kind of change. And the only way she knows how to do it is to show that level of emotion, right? And so, yeah, but she's judged, and you're right. I think you're right. People are just being...
Karen's become the new bitch.
Yes, yes. Seeing that bitch is being in total control of herself is not... You can't...
Oh, I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
You said that line, being in total control of herself, and then you got an applause break. And then it sounded like you said thanks.
Thank you, Gaynell. That's my mom's name.
That's your mom.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I was wondering.
Yeah, my mom. So the thing about it is, I don't think I was a teenager when I heard the word bitch. Like, I never heard the word. It's like we weren't that family where things were like, my father may have said son of a gun a lot. And so we didn't know, he would be son of a gun. So we didn't know like that, the expression son of a bitch. And then when I finally heard it, I was like, what's a bitch? And then bitch is a female dog. Well, why would somebody call, blah, blah, blah. And then, and my mother at some point just, pulled us aside, my sister and I aside, And she told us like the acronym for what it means and not to let it get you down, you know? And so I was like, all right. So I actually called a friend like, you know, you're a bad bitch once. And she got really, really mad at me because, you know, that like she really, the word hurt her. And I had to go back and explain, no, that's not what it means in my world, you know?
So I'm curious, this experience, why do you suppose this was the time where you said no more? You know, any other time, why this time?
Yeah, I was, that's a good question. That's a really good question. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it had anything to do with your sister being there? Like some
No,
kind
my
of
sister and I
protectiveness?
hang out together all the time.
Oh, okay.
But although when we are together, there is a little bit of a, you know, like morphin power that we you know create together.
Right.
But so when I held on to the doorknob, I closed my eyes, and she was actually the one who said, "What are you doing?" Praying. That was her question to me, and I said yes.
Oh, wow.
And then I did pray to like, please don't let me kill this motherfucker tonight. And then the other question was, what do you want? Like those are the two things. But I feel like we were having such a good time,
Mm-hmm.
and he just splashed cold water all over it, you know? And also he was a height where I felt like I could take him. So I wasn't, you know, I just didn't want to let it go. He was also the whisperer that goes to neighborhood. I think that came from him. So, you know, I was a little bit over it.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask you? You have a storyteller in your family.
Yes.
A fairly famous one.
Yeah.
I'm letting you fill in the details if you want to.
Okay. So my aunt is Alice Walker, who wrote The Color Purple and did many other things. Mm-hmm. She is an activist. She is a womanist. She started the womanist movement. She is she's written poetry. She is a force to be reckoned with, and she is a wonderful like human being and one of my best people in my life.
Does that lineage inspire you and give you some courage? Does it ever give you an undue kind of maybe amount of pressure? Do you ever feel this like, oh, geez, what I have to live up to?
Yeah, I think for many, many years, most of my life, I was afraid to disclose that I wrote and that I enjoyed storytelling.
Yeah.
My friends, my small network of friends would like, you know, enjoy my, you know, yarns. And one of them actually invited me to go to the Moth, which is how I even got started in doing it. But when I was 9, and I write about this, I'm working on a solo show.
Okay.
And I write about this. When I was 9, I remember my aunt was reading In Love and Trouble at a library in Boston. And I remember the room was packed, and she had this perfectly coiffed afro and this dashiki, and she was reading from, you know, her pages were dog-eared, and they had these like little colorful things that, you know, kept the page where she would read from. And she held the intention of the entire room, even in her stillness, even in her silence. You could hear a pin drop. And she would read these words that were way over my head, but I understood the importance of them. And I also understood the depth. And I felt pain when she was reading about it. Didn't understand why or what it was about, but I could feel the tenor of each one of her poems. And I remember sitting there wanting that, like wanting to hold a room in that way, you know? And there were people of all races, all sizes, sitting on the floor, sitting in chairs and standing and listening to her. And this is way before The Color Purple. This is before anything. It was probably maybe her 4th or 5th book of poems, if that. And I was just in awe. and I was afraid to say how influenced I felt by that moment.
Right.
And I didn't really share with people that that's what I wanted to do. I just have a ton of journals, as you can see behind me, and I just wrote.
Yeah.
And every now and then I'd sneak a story into something to see if it would, like a contest, and never won anything. But the process of like a story unfolding on paper, and then now to be able to get on stage and share, and I like being funny. I like seeing the funny in moments.
Right.
I think that's kind of how I process things. So yeah, that the combination of her presence in the world, and then just who I am as a natural being, kind of, I finally stepped into it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, thank you.
In the story, you bring up an interesting thing called qualifying.
Mm-hmm.
It's where one of the people, I can't remember who it was, Saya,
mm-hmm.
Lets everyone know that you're a person of importance.
Yeah.
And while it's funny, it also sort of it's an odd thing that still maintains the status quo.
Because if you weren't someone special,
it
wouldn't be okay for two Black women just to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So she did that. This is the thing about Saya. If we weren't her friends, she would have done that to any Black women that walked in.
Yeah.
Because that would be her way of kind of creating a safe space for everyone. Because the thing is that she's a waiter, so she wants the other customers to feel safe. So by saying like, Chef Jordan is really glad that you're here, and like, it's like, okay, they're good. It's like if we were like, movie stars or something, everybody would be fine with it, which is why we went into that whole like Oprah thing.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, you guys, like, we'll help you even feel more comfortable. And that's the kind of concession that you're always doing you're always making adjustments. I call it trying to stand upright in a slanted room. It's like you're always making adjustments so that people will feel comfortable in your presence. When you go into a clothing store, you're being very dramatic about where your bag is, so nobody thinks you're putting anything in your bag. And it's like you're staying clear of the door. If you have something looped over your arm, you're staying clear of the door so nobody thinks you're going to run out with the item. There's always this fear that folks are suspicious of you or afraid of you or intimidated by. It's terrible. It's
exhausting, I imagine.
It is. It is. That's why, not to get too clinical or whatever, but that's why Black folks have the health issues that we have, because it's, we're in a pressure cooker, and it's happening. As quiet as it's kept, it's happening to all of us now, because we have a bully running the country.
Right.
And everybody is now feeling that, if it's not themselves. White men might feel it a little bit less, but maybe not if they have friends and family or children that are, affected by, shootings at school or whatever. It's affecting all of us,
I feel like we are in the worst era I've lived through for driving. I feel like everyone's driving more aggressive than ever, less considerate than ever.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's what it is, that it's just this overarching entitlement, bullying, sort
anxiousness,
of being the order of the day, anxiousness.
Yeah.
After this experience happened,
yeah,
did it change how you interacted with these sorts of experiences going forward?
Yes and no. I think that yes, in that I stopped being afraid of showing emotion whenever I was feeling angry, when I knew that my kind of stepping directly into my anger would serve me. Like, I wasn't afraid of doing it anymore. Right.
Yeah.
But also I recognize that there is a strategy that folks have. I, just recently, left an employer, and there's a strategy that the superior had to create anger in me, so that therefore I could emote in an angry way that kind of match that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, it would create a reason, you know, it would create some level of insubordination, right? So I would be insubordinate if this person like said something to me, and then if I match that energy, then I could be considered insubordinate.
Right.
And when that happened, I was very mindful to just, you know, focus on the work and not be not match the energy, and and really hoped that it would end. So yes and no. So yes, that I can show up and let people know how I'm feeling when I know that it's going to serve the situation, and no when I don't think it will serve me at all, because I loved the job that I was working in. I didn't want anything to happen, and I also had a vision and a hope that this person, this boss, would change the way in which they were, you know, projecting on me, whatever their issues were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious a little bit about your process as a storyteller.
Uh-huh.
How do you go about putting stories together? Do you write things out very meticulously and try to memorize them? Are you off the cuff a bit more? Tell us a little bit about how you approach these.
Thanks for asking that question. I do write things out, and as if you were to read it, if somebody were to read it, and then I listen to it. You know how the immerse reader and on Word, you can put immerse reader and it'll read everything. So I'll listen to it. Just listen to how.
Really, you listen to the computer reading it?
Oh, I'll listen to the computer reading it just so I can hear the issues in what I've written, because I can't see them all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, when you write something and you also know the story yourself, if you say the word all the time, you know, like your might be written wrong, or I don't know what, I can't explain, but something might be written incorrectly, or a sentence structure may be a little bit off. So I'll listen to the computer, and then I'll go in and I'll edit, and then I'll read it. And then I will try to tell the story I'll record myself telling the story as I read it. So I'll have the, page over here so that I can, if I forget something, and I'll remember it that way. And then I'll work out the funny, the joke, like whatever joke could go here, or what this is, this would be, oh, remember when you thought, okay, that could be, oh yeah, well, you should put that in there, or blah, blah, blah. And so I'll do that, and I'll do that a couple of times. I'll record myself a couple of times, and then I'll listen to myself over and over again. And then on my drive to Sacramento, which is a long drive, I will, and sometimes I'll tell the story again in my head to get myself to sleep. Like that would be like how I lull myself to sleep. And then on the way, when I was driving over for this particular story, I kept the radio off, and I just told the story and imagined myself on stage telling the story.
If anyone has ever seen me driving over the causeway between Sacramento and Davis talking to myself,
that's what you're doing.
That's exactly what was happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something about that space, being in a car on a long drive, is just so perfect for practicing a story or a comedy set.
Yeah.
Has this process changed over time, or is this how you approach storytelling kind of from the get-go? So
my first story, I told at the Moth, and I told it was a birthday story. And you know how the Moth only gives you 5 minutes, which it's a skill to be able to do a 5-minute story, and it means something. I did that, and I memorized it word for word. And that's how I did it, and memorized it word for word. And so I think the part of the process that probably improved was the kind of immersive reading. Is that my phone?
I'm not sure.
Oh, is the immersive reading part, so that I didn't have to read. Because what I realized is that, like, when I try to read my own, something that I've written myself, sometimes I stop, like my brain gets a little numb, and I stop, like, you can read and then
Yeah.
you cannot receive what you're reading. I stop receiving what I'm reading. But if I listen to the computer do it, then I can hear it. I can hear how it sounds, and I can hear like what doesn't work and what does work. And I
Interesting.
think that was the part that I started doing, like not, it's been 2022 was when I started the storytelling thing. So I think it's about, probably last year I started doing that.
I think you're the first storyteller we've run into that uses that. I think it's such a good idea. I'm totally going to steal it.
Oh,
That's
good.
great.
Yeah. Yeah. It helps. And I think if you do it on Google, Google Docs,
Right.
they have different voices.
You can select different voices. Yeah. That's wild.
I found your intro, the beginning of the story, to be interesting because you sort of ask the audience to sit with or confront their own stereotypes before you begin the story.
Yeah. Yeah. I also didn't want anybody I did that. I wish I wasn't that thoughtful. I did that because I really knew that I was speaking to a bunch of people. There's probably going to be somebody in here named Karen or Kevin. And I didn't want anybody to feel insulted. And I also, you're right, I also wanted I needed to link the angry white woman and the angry black woman and just kind of bring to the forefront that, there's this label for the angry white woman, because to most people, the angry white woman it's an anomaly.
It's an exception, yeah.
Yeah, it's usually exception, and black women are just angry, period.
Has this experience changed your relationship to your own anger?
You know what it's changed my relationship with to? It changed my relationship to the social expectation of who I am as a black woman.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't give a fuck anymore if you think I'm angry.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I remember I had a boss that told me that I should smile.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how ridiculous that is.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it's like, I didn't know, like, she's like, you just look so mean. You should smile more. And I'm like, so can you see me in a meeting? I'm listening intently to somebody talking about serious stuff where I was working, and I'm just doing this while I'm just, cheesing while people are talking. It's ridiculous.
It's like a toothpaste commercial.
Nobody's asking you to smile. So I had to let her know that, it's really not okay to ask that of me. If there's something going on with you, then, like, we should talk about that. But I'm not going to do that so that other people, I'm like, use a little brain power to focus on smiling while I'm trying to, like, really do serious work with folks. I'm not here for your entertainment. I don't know. It was ridiculous. So I don't care anymore. And I don't know if it was that moment, but, it was a beginning for me. Yeah. Yeah.
So you also write for things just to be read, right?
Yeah, I do. I do have some stuff on Medium. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there something? Do certain stories work better as oral storytelling for you, or certain for writing? When you have stuff come up, do you sort of choose where they go?
Yeah, I think when I write to be read, it's just like, here is my opinion. Like, this is just something that I'm grappling with.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm thinking. And when I tell stories, it is my goal is to open hearts and stir souls. Mm-hmm. I really want to bring people the spirit, where they say that we are spirits having a human experience, right? That's like we're kind of our body is our vessel, and we're these spirits in our body. But so many of us are kind of impacted by everything that's around us, that our spirits are these tiny little things in us. And I want to remind people of their heart, that little spark in your heart to just kind of illuminate a little bit more and to bring the soul into the forefront, and that's the part where living in your spirit is the most amazing amazing feeling, an amazing opportunity. And that's why, I mean, to segue into what we're talking about on the 23rd, that's why people do drugs, because they feel like they're just like they're out of body, you know? So being in your spirit is really the most freeing feeling ever. And it feels that way when I'm on stage, and I like to bring that energy and give that to people when I provide the story, when I contribute the story.
Well, that seems to me, unless you feel differently, that a good place to end the conversation.
Yeah, this was a great talk, and
thank you.
You know, we've done quite a few of these by this point. I will tell you, this is the first time I walked away from it with a new idea about how I'm going to go about putting my stories together. So thank you for that. That was just
I'm glad I could be
some good practical advice.
Yeah, thank you.